There are so many tools and software products out there, and today's guest has been testing many of them in his YouTube channel as well as he's practicing as a project manager and architectural designer. Hello everyone, my name is Hassan Numer and I'm founder of Integrated BIM. Today's guest is Joseph Kim. He has an amazing YouTube channel and has been reviewing a lot of interesting products related to AEC industry. So we want to have a great and interesting talk, discussion of about the most interesting products he has reviewed, the challenges he has faced both in his channel and in his career, and reviewing those products, great advices from him, how to make the best configurations and setup for desktop and laptops, and discussion about some great tools and how he uses the tools in daily workflow and life, as well as there are many other sub discussions which will be quite interesting. So stay until the end. Hi, Joseph. Thank you very much for joining to our BIM Talk. And today we have a Joseph Kim. He is also an influencer and YouTuber as well. He does amazing job in his channel. We will come in a second, but I want to first thank you for joining our talk. And how are you feeling today?
I'm very good so far. Thank you for having me on this session today.
I think people will have a lot of value by listening to you because they're generally watching you behind your videos and introducing some products and interesting and useful content for the AEC industry, but they don't know as much about what your opinions or your personal level or how the future of your channel or many other things that you can give great advice today. We will talk a little bit about your future of your channel, how you arrived at level, what kind of challenges you face. So we will also talk about like the best hardware and software we can have acquire right now for different demographics. So it could be students or it could be professionals. And we will also dive deeper on some software, like what you prefer and what you think will improve in the future and will be best in the future. Okay, so before we jump into those things, let's first a little bit understand about you, who you are really, what you're practicing, where you are located, and your channel.
I'm currently working as a project manager in MJM Architects. I'm located in Nashville, Tennessee, in the United States. I've run a role of sort of influencer life on the side on the weekends and nights as a YouTuber and some freelance work as well. I have sort of sharing a channel or sharing outlet of my experience and things that I pick up along the way as another professional in the field.
And what kind of projects are you working on?
At the day job, I tend to work in some retail is mostly the projects that I'm working on, but there are some mixed use. I have been in history working for a lot of commercial projects as well. Those are the areas that I'm most experienced in. However, on the freelance side, I may get residentials to all mixture of projects.
I understand that. And as an influencer, as a freelancer, and as a full timer, I can understand that your life is, it has a little ups and downs. And as far as I understand, you also have a family, some kids. So it's really difficult to manage all of these stuff. And how are you managing all those stuff?
I don't think I am managing it. It's always sort of a fine balance between managing it versus just completely catastrophic type of experience. With remote working and everything, you just have to balance everything. You may hear kids running in the background because that's again the sort of work and also kids, the family balancing.
Absolutely. And you jumped into a YouTube stuff, I think about more or less 4 or 5 years ago. And why did you specialize the channel as a project manager rather than doing like something on the project management side or as a software side or some kind of tutorial side? You went more onto the product side. What did influence you and why did you go in this direction?
It's a very interesting question because I never really set out myself as a product reviewer or anything really. As you heard, I'm doing many different things and my channel was set out. It's sort of an outlet to what I kind of know and what I experience in my day to day as a professional. And it may be related to architecture. Sometimes it's not related to architecture at all. It's some things that I have in an interest or some things that I just want to share to other people. It just becomes another channel, another outlet to let my story out there somewhere. I have been struggling a bit. Sometimes I have a very, I would say, useful information to myself, and I want to share this with other people or perhaps people who's interested. And I've been having a hard time just finding people who's interested in. People just want to be a bit more stagnant is what I feel like, and I don't want to forcefully share those things to anyone else. And I feel like YouTube is a great sort of medium to do that sort of thing. So I feel like, well, I enjoy technology, I enjoy sharing, I enjoy making videos, I enjoy making content. So why don't I just kind of share that and see, if anyone likes it, then I would love to have a conversation with them. And that's just kind of how I came about. And in terms of the product, as some companies got involved in the process, that's the best way or the simplest way to get involved with the company to feature their products onto the channel. So it's been sort of that way. And also as a technology geek or nerd I am, I get fascinated, or I'm just purely interested in those sort of products. And I love getting my hands on and unboxing myself too. So I guess that's more of a personal interest than more than anything. But I never really set out myself to do a product review or just a software tutorial only. I want to do many things. Unfortunately, lately, because of the holiday sales and everything, I have been having a lot of boxes that are aside on my studio. So I have to do a lot of product review in that sense. But no, that's not basically my focus. I do want to focus on other aspects too.
Here is a tricky question now. Do you do the unboxing things? Do you choose the product yourself, like this specific product I want to review, or does the companies asking you, hey, could you introduce this? I can imagine that it happens sometimes, and there's some products that you're also interested in, the company is doing that, but how are you doing it? Is it like they are reaching to you or you are reaching to them?
Both, and all of the above. Sometimes there's I have to reach out the companies, or sometimes companies are reaching me out, and it obviously depends on scale of the company and scale of the product as well. More valuable product, they're not gonna budge. Even if I try to reach out, nothing's gonna happen. Or
I understand.
sometimes I have to reach out aggressively in order to get hands on or even feature them on my channel. Obviously, I can spend off of my own pocket and purchase that, and I'm free to review or do whatever I want to do with it. But if I say something like a sample of product or for review purposes, it means it's either company is engaged or sent me a free product to try out. But often I have to return those products, so there's no sort of financial exchange in any sort. So it depends. Sometimes they do send me free product just because they want to feature it on my channel, whether it is completely related to architecture or not really, but I do it anyways because I'm interested in those products. But sometimes I'm actively seeking out like Oculus there, like,
Yeah.
can you just sort of collaborate with me to review those products? Hasn't happened yet. I just bought it and I just reviewed it, and that's usually how it goes. I either reach out or they reach me out, and we just kind of talk back and forth if possible at all.
I absolutely understand. And the market that you have in the US, you're more lucky there because it's much easier and people are really supporting influencers more than in Europe. I think in Europe, we have a little bit more struggle and difficulty on reaching particular products and getting into the review. That's why most of the influencers are from US as well, obviously because of the market as well. But there are very few influencers in Europe than the US market to review the products because generally they have, like Germany has their own distributor, Eastern Europe has all their own distributor, not like in the United States, one holistic upper level company, upper level management is managing most of the states. That is one of the lucky side of being a product reviewer. And obviously I know that is not your exact title, but kind of what you're mainly doing in your YouTube. How long it takes you when you get a product, like at your door and even before your door, because you need to communicate first, how long in general it takes you, the communication, the product is at your door, and you publish the video on the YouTube?
So, in terms of the scheduling, just from the communication to the actual publication, that will, when I was more, I guess, starting off, that was as soon as, we flip the switch and then we just get it in the door, I review it and then publish. I'm at this 24/7 was kind of like the thing that I was doing. But nowadays, I've got, a number of boxes at any given time on my studio. So they go in order, or I would say the product value does play in sort of scheduling too. So I
Absolutely.
have higher priority product that I know it's going to be one, well sold on my channel, and two, it is higher interest to me, so they get prioritized differently. But sometimes I just have to get products like out and publish as soon as possible just because I want to get it out so that I can take on more. They kind of vary in style of the video, or at least that's what I'm trying to do in my videos. Some are more casual, some I put more effort in editing. It can vary from, let's say, a month planning to publication, to it could happen literally in that week.
But as a man hour, how many hours you input there?
I do have videos that are like even review videos, like 20. I have a review video that was a comparison video between laptops that took very, very long time. I would say good 20, 30 hours in shooting to editing. But other than that, typically hour or two in shooting and then another several hours in editing. So it takes up all of my weekend at the least. That's why I'm on this sort of soft weekly schedule of releasing videos, because that's when I can dedicate bulk of my time. Sunday night, I've done most amount of work and I can put it, upload, and then release.
And also there's a lot of work done on the YouTube side to market it, to properly put a description, the keywords, and finding all the like market research. So there's also a lot of work there. But also you need to, for your channel, you need to obviously look what can bring most value to your audience. So that's one of the priority sides. But when you think about all these hours, sometimes the product is not really worth those hours. So it's okay when the company does ask for you to return the product, because you do all this effort in the end of the day and their product is being featured. So it's kind of a partial sponsorship or partial collaboration. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to always say the positive stuff. Obviously, that is one of the good side of being an influencer, because you just say whatever you see, your point of view, and the manufacturer has to understand it and respect that, and they are doing that. So, and what kind of challenges you have been facing since you started the YouTube channel? Let's start with a professional one.
I guess I kind of touched up on sort of the challenges, but for me, as just a professional career, I am sort of self-driven in a way, and also always eager to learn and figure out the best ways, best practices, and workflows. That's just kind of in me, and that's something that I like to do. And I like spending time in making things better or just honing my skills as well. With all of that, I always spend a lot more time than necessary in trying fixing things.
It's
And
normal.
when yeah, and when something breaks, I get so focused on it. I just sort of tunnel so hard on that sort of issue or problem that I'm facing rather than trying to get done the entire project. So that's something that I always face as like a personal trait. I think that's some challenges that I have in terms of that playing into my professional career. I had to focus on a couple of different works that I do because I'm financially challenged and as a young couple and who's having a kid, or now I have two kids and I had to make financially things work. So, those are the challenges, as you said, the balance between family, work, how am I managing those things, whether I'm
Absolutely.
managing or not. Those are the big, big challenges. You just don't have enough time for anything at one point, but that's I think normal challenge for anyone who's juggling life. So that's as far as my professional challenge goes.
Actually, I would like to admit that I'm really grateful that you did your channel and you did all this work on the behind the scenes, because I mean, some of the products I have on my desk right now, it was because of your influence. When you did this influence, like I was like checking it and you did the sincere review of it. And I was like, okay, I was interested in the product anyway, but when I get the confirmation from your end, like go to kind of thing, because it is really working well, I'm really happy with that. So I think like you are impacting a lot of people, and that's one of the great things about being a YouTuber, because you really don't know that you're impacting so many people, but in fact you did, because you didn't know that you impacted me, but you did. So that's actually an awesome thing, I think. What is the feeling about it? So you don't know the exact people, but you are one way or another influencing them. How do you feel on that?
I get warm and fuzzy whenever somebody tells me it was useful, or somebody says it was downright wrong for me to purchase those products. But I feel like it's sort of virtual friend who's nudging you, hey, have you heard about this thing, and have you tried it? I thought it was good, but that's just my opinion. What do you think? That's I think that's sort of soft nudging from well-known friend is how I take it. And if somebody says they also have purchased because of my video and they enjoy it too, and I appreciate that. Whenever I hear those comments or somebody telling me that, and it does make my day, and it makes me kind of thinking, oh, okay, all of those efforts in making videos is worthwhile. Not only I enjoy the product, but also being able to share and hear the story. I love it, and that's the very reason I do YouTube. I just want to hear from other people. I want to talk to them and share my experience.
Absolutely. YouTube is very powerful in that. You can get your voice to million and million people. So your channel is growing like crazy. And if you didn't check Joseph Kim's channel, it will be in the link below. And there is also a pop-up link to direct you onto his channel. What do you think about the computer hardware, the best picks that you would have so far for 2020 and 2021? What do you think people should focus on, and what can you advise to them?
First, I want to mention a bit more about perhaps like the desktop and laptop. And the reason why I do that is because laptops are the most common products that was featured on my channel, at the least for now. And I have been advising sort of two different areas. As far as the desktop goes, I've never featured like a brand of a desktop. I think all the desktop has been my own custom desktop that I have made, whereas all the laptops, obviously you can't really customize your laptop. So it's been a dedicated brand of laptop. And a lot of people ask me, hey, what's the best one? What should I go for? Obviously, it really depends on your situation. I cannot answer a question something like, what's the best car in your life?
Yes,
And, I can't say that. The car depends on the purpose,
absolutely.
whether you're going off road versus, nice sports car for racing and just point A to B commute drive. It's all different purpose, different tools. So for me to do all the tasks that I want to do, I prefer desktop, just because it's not going to be limited in regards to size or performance or power. And you can always swap out parts, therefore it's modifiable. But you also have aspect of maintenance in regards to, you need to be able to buy the right parts and then purchase and maintain. And if something goes wrong, then you can't send it to anyone. You have to fix it yourself. So, but I am a bit of a DIY techie person, so I like being able to do that. It's kind of like people working on their car on the weekend. That's
Absolutely.
where I spend my time. So I enjoy that aspect, and I maintain that, and that's my full fat machine where I dedicate most amount of time. But as a laptop, I always find, oh, there's a huge sort of use of laptops that people use because they're going in and out of the house and the office. They want to just be able to work on the same machine all the time, whether they're in their room, dining table, or their office or cafe or something like that. So I understand that aspect. I have been in that shoes too. If you're that type of person, or like a student who's going back and forth between school, then I think laptops actually are worthwhile. But obviously, I can't make the choice for you. You have to do your own research. But hopefully, my videos are helpful enough to teach you about what kind of products are that are out there. I can't say that specific laptop that I have reviewed is the best one, but um, that's as far as I can say, and that's as far as like what kind of hardwares that are available in regards to the computer area. And all of those products will depend whether you're a student or average user to, VR or rendering specialist. You're going to have to pick based on that. I think I went a little bit aside on the road there, but to answer, what are the best out there, it's hard to tell, but I think you're going to have to make educated guess on that regard.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about it in a way, you cannot tell which is the best, definitely, but maybe what's your favorite, I would say, because it depends on the point of view. Everyone has different needs. Everyone has works on a different software product or different combination of software products. But in your case, for example, what is the most favorite one?
My best pick in regards to a computer, I have three computer situation in day to day. So I have big fat custom desktop that I have built, and that's my personal preference where I can spend my own money for every single performance in that machine and being able to maintain myself and do a bit of DIY out of my personal interest. And I have a office machine where somebody else maintains it, somebody else pays for it, but I still go in, and it has a very similar configuration, not necessarily hardware, but in terms of like the software and everything that's inside of the machines, they are sort of comparable. So I'm able to just kind of transition in without much of discrepancy. But then also, I need to do something in between. Either I'm on the road or I'm doing sort of a traveling, or I need to do something between of those two machines as they are not portable. I need a laptop, but this laptop doesn't have to do any of the tasks that I typically do. Maybe occasionally. So my personal preference for the laptop is my Dell XPS 2-in-1. I have been using that as a daily driver. Matter of fact, I just have it on the side because I can write notes and then I can display what I'm going to talk about today. So yeah, that's been my personal pick, which I have featured on my channel, not because I'm sponsored or sent a review unit or anything. I have paid for every single dime of this product here. I did a research and I did a pick based on my research.
What kind of parts do you have, right? And configuration do you have in your desktop, for example? What kind of CPU do you have? So maybe you can just give us a little bit details, like so people can understand. Okay, Joseph Kim is using this for his daily work.
I have i7 8th gen Intel. I believe it's 8700. It's not a
Wow, is it the same? I
overclockable.
have the same one right now here.
Yeah, I have featured that specific unit many times on my channel. So I've gone with non overclockable, non K SKU because I wasn't really interested in overclocking or paying extra for overclocking gear. And also, I enjoy sort of the small form factor. So I tend to go small sort of desktop chassis than like the big fat one. Is just mounted under the desk so that it's nicely tucked away, but it's not thermally limited, anything like that. Those are all technical stuff. But in terms of graphics card, which I get questioned a lot, currently I'm rocking NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Super. It's a really long name, but 2080 Super, if you say that, I guess people tend to understand. That's what I'm using on my desktop. In regards to, I think there's also like the monitor. Right now, I've got three monitors and one that is just turned off plus laptop. So I do have a quite of a setup, but that's as far as like what the machine goes. In terms of memory, I went as 32 gigabytes. I felt that we, as the professionals and creators who needs a lot of RAM more than average type of people, 32 was really overkill at the time that I was purchasing on the 8th gen Intel years. I think it's been like 3 years
In the
or
same
four
way.
years since. But I'm right now looking to upgrade to 64 gig just because I need a lot of RAM in terms of carrying my daily tasks. Yeah, I haven't really got around doing that.
What kind of software consumes that RAM? That do you think that you will need for?
Video does that. Large Revit file consumes a lot of RAM, and sometimes it is not still true. But when your video cards fill up in terms of graphics tasks for rendering purposes, it does trickle down to RAM. So just having a lot of RAM, because we're not focusing on a one single application. We've got a PDF viewer of some sort, and then the sort of chat or video conference kind of thing, and then millions of Google Chrome tabs, and then Revit, and then SketchUp, and then you got multiple of. That's why it just kind of fills up. So I think having more RAM is really useful for multitasking and just getting through your day.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm also upgrading the computer right now at the office because 3 years ago it was like overkill. But I think with the upgrading, constant upgrade of the software products, and it is like we need to also keep up with the hardware. So I understand where you're coming from and how they feel on that. So from the software side, what kind of software products are you using day to day? And what are your best picks on that?
What I daily use is I go between Revit and SketchUp. During the week, I tend to do more Revit. I would say 30-hour at the least on Revit, and then the rest of 10 hours or my nights and the weekends dedicated on SketchUp. That used to be completely flopped the other way in history, but that's just current sort of metrics at the moment. So I go between two softwares mainly. And in terms of rendering software, I have been using Enscape, as many of you know. But in the past, I have used different renderers such as Lumion and V-Ray. I had been admin user for both softwares, but just currently, because Enscape just works in my workflow.
Instant, it's fast.
I wouldn't necessarily advertise that is the best, but at least in my personal life, it is the best one that works for me.
Is it because it's fast, it's instant? Is it because of that, or what is the main purpose of that?
Yeah, that does play in it. I feel like there's much lesser discrepancy between your 3D model as the rendered product, and everything works. It just works. Nothing breaks. There's no abnormality. There's not a foreign object that comes into your model in order to make render look good. I can just expect this to look good on this side. I have spoken to a couple of Enscape people, as well as just kind of general understanding of what Enscape is in the market. Unlike other rendering software, this one is really geared towards sort of work in progress type of renderer. And I'm always working. I'm not on the end of the project where marketing side where I'm doing a full fat marketing visualization. I'm more of a designer or someone who's doing everything from concept to a construction document. Therefore, I need a renderer that helps me that process. And Enscape has been the best renderer for that regard. Therefore, unless you're going in that towards the end, the marketing material, that suits me very well, and that's why it has been my best pick so far.
I want to do just one disclaimer very quick, and this BIM Talk. None of the products we mention are not sponsored. Therefore, we are just having our sincere feedback, what we feel like, and I just want to make a clarification on that for our audience. Actually, I wanted to just go a little bit more into the SketchUp and the Revit workflow because it's an interesting one, and there's a lot of debate right now. Like other people we are collaborating with, they're asking us, hey, how can we sustain a Rhino and Revit workflow, because we don't want to use Revit really for conceptual design, and there are much better software out there. I don't say that Rhino is the best, but it could be SketchUp, it could be other software products. I believe you're using the SketchUp for the same purpose, to quickly design something. It doesn't have any constraints. You can throw out stuff there. It's much easier and flexible on that end. And then you obviously, with the time, are you swapping to Revit, or are you using SketchUp for particular projects and Revit for other projects? How is your kind of workflow between the two?
It depends on really the client's need. That's what I have been observing at the moment. Currently, it depends on the client's need. If client doesn't care what model or what software that they receive or we work on, then we'll pick up whatever that is the best suited for such tests. I still feel Revit is much better in regards to providing quantifiable data as well as the drawing. But when it comes to a bit more visualistic type of modeling, SketchUp is much easier in terms of like malleable product or getting the 3D up to sort of the more visuals and getting stuff inside to make the scene look better, or at least to the level that is more believable. So I have been in frankly, I have started off as a SketchUp user more so than Revit. I just later moved on or picked up both things. I think I know SketchUp more so than Revit, but I don't state that as like that's how I'm gonna be in the future as well. But that's how I go about between two. Sometimes certain tasks are just much better in SketchUp, therefore I do it in there, and then I carry the data into Revit. I go between. In terms of Rhino and other softwares that are out there, I can't speak much for it because I don't personally use it, or I'm not as experienced in that software to discuss what is the best. But I am just generally aware how they are, what they are, because I need to know all the tools that are out there.
Absolutely.
And I do see a lot better implementation of Rhino using either Dynamo or Grasshopper like interface to get it into Revit. So I feel like that is much more friendlier option if you are proficient with Rhino.
Do you use SketchUp BIM? Or and another question is also, do you use a workflow from SketchUp to Revit, or Revit to SketchUp, or are you using them separately? So like just solely on its own the SketchUp and solely on its own Revit.
No, I go in between a lot. I do export stuff from SketchUp into Revit, and I do export a lot of stuff out of Revit into SketchUp. I go between back and forth, and I have sort of introduced those sort of workflow on my channel as well because it's not easy. It's complex. It always breaks as SketchUp versions up, Revit versions up, and they don't like talking to each other, and it's sort
It's
of
very
my
familiar.
job. It is my job and some other people's job to make them talk to each other or find a way for them to talk to each other. And interoperability is a huge issue in our industry, but whether we're going to let them solve the problem versus fix on our own. For me, because of my personal trait of if something is broken or it needs fixing, then I can't move on. I have to like focus on this so hard. And because of that, I end up doing it myself. But yeah, I go in between of them a lot. I bring in assets from the SketchUp side, either utilizing just quick modeling inside of SketchUp for visualization, and then just bring some of the stuff into Revit so that I can see it in my drawings, or at least show it in conjunction with other parametric model that is available inside of Revit. Or I get a model from a client that is full fat Revit model, but I'm needing to quickly visualize that for either VR purposes or real time rendering or any sort of rendering. Then I just bring it into SketchUp so I can quickly play that and then get a visualization done. Or sometimes clients require SketchUp because they know SketchUp, but they don't know Revit. So that all
Yes.
depends, but I go between a lot.
I'm not really, I mean, in our company, we don't work with SketchUp. We generally use it when the client needs it, but we're not, I wouldn't say, be able to say experts or software. We are more inclined towards like Rhino or other products. However, we have a basic knowledge about the SketchUp that when Tekla acquired it, like the Trimble systems acquired SketchUp, they wanted to implement some BIM features. Do you use those BIM features or you don't use those at all? You use the traditional SketchUp workflow?
It's a bit political question there, but I can confidently say I don't use any of the BIM feature that's within SketchUp.
What is the reason for that? Is it not good enough or you're not very familiar with it?
So it goes back to the sort of, I guess, philosophy in using software. I pick up the tool, whatever that is most suitable for the test. And I feel like although it has the functionality of, or at least technically it is a BIM software, a BIM package, I don't think it is the best out of what is available to me. So I feel like Revit in regards to BIM is a lot more available and suitable for the task that I'm needing to do. It's just industries just made that way. And I use sort of this sort of analogy of when you have a screw, then you want to use a screwdriver to put that thing into the material. But when you have a nail, then you want to use a hammer to put that through a material. But sometimes hammer is the only thing you have and you have a screw, then you have to hammer it in. So it's not the most efficient way. It's not most elegant way of doing it, but you're gonna get it done. And if I have to do BIM inside of SketchUp, I'll do it. But it's not the most elegant or proficient way of doing it. But I have both hammer and a screwdriver. Then why would I pick up the other? You know, it's just I go whatever that is suitable for the task.
Absolutely. I think the next question would be what kind of other software products you want to jump in? What are you like really interested in? If you're not working on certain products like competitor of Revit, other products like Tekla, or else any other product, not necessarily for the BIM use, but maybe for other workflows, for other reasons. So what are the software products that you currently have in your checklist and you haven't yet find the time to jump into them, or maybe you just explored them a bit and you didn't have time to further dive into them?
Very, very good question. I spend fair bit of time testing out things. I guess that's just in me of like reviewing things on my own and validating on my own. There are many, many softwares that I just kind of dove in a bit and then just didn't work out at the time. Either it's updated now, probably is better, but I just haven't had enough time to go back and test it, or it just is not suitable for my task. Therefore, I just kind of left it aside. There are many softwares that way. Twinmotion is one of them, like Unreal. Other type of real time renderings are definitely some areas that I have dove in and out to understand and build into my daily workflow. It just didn't make it its way. ArchiCAD a little bit, Vectorworks a little bit. I mean, I do use AutoCAD till this day, but I don't heavily do drafting in that regards. And for regards to drawing, there was a time where I use a lot of layout inside of SketchUp. If you're not aware what it
I
is,
know.
it's basically a drawing tool for SketchUp. A lot of people use that. If you want sort of all-in-one package, and rather than paying for a huge subscription fee of Revit, then it actually makes sense to pick up something that is going to get your job done. So SketchUp actually provide all-in-one package. So there was a time for me to just use a lot of layout in that regards too. And there are other type of VR. There's so many VR softwares that I have dealt with or currently am trying things out. Some of them are featured on my channel. Just to name a few: Iris VR, Insight VR. There is Archeo. I think there was something like Ulio or Modelo. There are many names out there that I have tried a few things, whether it's a full fat VR experience, just like Unreal or Twinmotion is, to Google Cardboard, very small thing that you're able to export a 360 view and put it in a cardboard to look around. I've tried many, and and ShapeSpark is another one that I have featured on my channel, which was kind of interesting and on a product on its own. So yeah, there are many. I still am trying more things. There are emails that I'm receiving regarding certain type of software which I don't have enough time to dive into. I want to keep myself at least one foot in that sort of area of testing and reviewing software on my own. And that's one of the challenge as well. Like I got to keep myself updated, and I got to keep sharpening my edges. Otherwise, I become obsolete in regards to, hey, what's the most current thing that is available? In addition to
It's
doing like
difficult.
reviews of hardwares and everything, it really is difficult to keep myself floating above the surface.
Absolutely. And I think in a second we will discuss like students what kind of software they can pick for their university, or like when they work with the Revit and so forth. So like budget options. Maybe you can also give some suggestions what would be overkill, or like the best configuration for the computer. So if you're a student or somewhere in between, you can just find something in between. Before we go on to that, can we also like cover other software products like common data environment? By the way, we just launched our BIM and Revit Management Master Course. Here you will be mastering your Revit management and BIM skills. If you are currently a Revit user, or if you want to go next level of your career, even if you are a BIM manager and you want to get more expertise in some discussions, this is an excellent course for you. It will be live, and I will be demonstrating and discussing directly and interacting with you live. This will be tutor-led, and we have very interesting topics, and it will be up to date. We'll cover all the latest standards, we'll cover all the interesting bits of building execution planning, and we'll discuss the mindset, which is the most important thing if you want to go in your next career. And for a limited time, we have 30% discount. This is a Christmas discount. It will be for a limited time. Hit the first link in the description below so you get this limited time offer. Did you touch anything on those side of the industry?
There isn't anything that I'm heavily passionate about, but this kind of brings me back to the beginning of our session. I had experienced everything from a very large architectural firm, 1,000+ employee worldwide firm, and see how they do their own stuff, to a startup company, retail company, as a sole sort of architectural manager who's managing the entire process, and even software purchasing, to this sort of, I would say, small size firm, a local but functioning nationally firm that I'm currently in. I have seen sort of many different perspective and scale of projects to the workflow. Anything from new forma, as you said, to share and sort of common data, to, in that small startup company, I have used Dropbox as as holding a central file for Revit. And I also have used BIM 360 to share central files and synchronize datas. To, I am currently using Dropbox, OneDrive, and I am using Google Drive. So there are many different aspects. And the work, we use ShareFile. There's plethora of different methods that I use. I haven't found like one is the best for me, and obviously it just all depends on what the company is using, what the client is requiring in terms of security. There are many other softwares and platforms that I am currently using, but often I can't even mention it because, I'm tied to that specific clients. So there isn't one that I'm specifically passionate or adamant about. It's just, yeah, whatever comes along, I'm flexible. I'll pick it up and use it.
For example, in our case, I think Autodesk will stop the access to the BIM 360 team, but we'll love it because we can just upload the model there, share the link. Anyone in the industry, they don't have to purchase anything. They just click on the link and they visualize it like directly in their browser, and they can do it even like with a very weak laptops, even tablet, phone. They can visualize directly there. I think that was one of the best things that we could, communicate efficiently with the industry. We can just share it to the contractor. He can cut the building and just see right there and then exactly what we are talking about on site. Obviously, you can do still this with like BIM 360 suite, where you have a lot of different things like glue and other parts. But obviously, you need to pay subscription for each seat. So when you take it to the BIM 360 design, you use synchronization, you collaborate with the other Revit users or internally and externally. However, they all have to have, even if you want to just participate as a viewer, just to see the model, you need to purchase the entire license. And I think it's a bit of overkill on that side, because our clients just want to see the model. They don't want anything else. So what we are doing right now, downloading it and uploading manually into BIM 360 Teams so they can visualize it right there and then. But there are other software products. You don't have to do it directly in BIM 360 Team. You can just upload there many more. I just wanted to cover briefly, quickly, if you are doing the web-based version of visualization or you do generally native files.
I would say more native file. Even on Enscape, there are solutions to share standalones. That also has challenge on its own. Sometimes the client don't have downright good enough machine to run it. They're trying to view all of them on their smartphone rather than ever opening a project file off of their laptop. That's just how they do it, and I can't expect them to open even through, I don't know, BIM 360 or Navisworks to coordinate data. I can't expect that to come from owner or the client side. So I have been relying mostly on sort of the native software in order to visualize, for example, Enscape's standalone, or just do a simple snapshot or video of my render so that they can just see it easily on their convenient devices. In regards to just being able to see things out of your tablet or smartphone, ShapeSpark was something that I had mentioned on my channel. They do a lot of background processing on their server so that it's much easier to read off of their small devices, is sort of their business model. So that was kind of useful. Or even the Enscape, they now have collaboration mode that has BIM track implementation. So you can see a lot of portion of your model as either the render snapshot or what's available as like a navigation through BIM track.
Absolutely.
It's
That's very
powerful.
useful.
Yeah, and I think it is especially useful for people who's looking to collaborate or share the data so that they can coordinate and look into a common sort of model together.
In a second, we will jump into advice from Joseph Kim, do's and don'ts, what he thinks, like some mistakes that we should not repeat in the industry. But before that, let's focus on demographic use of the hardware. What kind of hardware do you suggest for the students? And let's go overkill after that.
Sure. I'll start from the very beginning, from student days.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever owned a laptop with a dedicated GPU as a student. It was just everything off of CPU. Back then, V-Ray was sufficient to get, or that was like the only thing that was available for rendering purposes, and it was reliant on CPU rather than GPU. Therefore, that was sufficient for even touching on visualization. But most of the CAD software is not as heavily dependent on GPU. Therefore, you can get most of your tasks done as a student, just a CPU or at least iGPU for that matter. You don't need a full fat desktop. I think some of the budget laptops that I have covered on my channel are really suitable for a student. It really is in that budget area. The sales is basically what you want to catch rather than a specific brand or a SKU of a laptop. Catch the Black Friday, catch the holidays, catch the back to school sales. Do get whatever the highest spec that you can get, or you gotta love your machine. So pick out the right color, pick out the right size. For me, I always preferred smaller laptops than bigger. Again, that becomes on limitation to the specs of the machine that you have. I'm not that tall. I'm not a big person. Therefore, carrying a big device was more difficult for me. So I always prefer 13-inch over 15 or 17. But one time a guy approached me and say, "Hey, what's the best laptop for me?" And I was like, "I prefer 13-inch this, that." And he was like, "I'm 6'4". I need really large laptop. Otherwise it just becomes a little tablet for me." I understand that. So, for him, 17-inch is what he wants. And that makes sense. It perhaps more electronics than you might want, but for a bigger person, I understand it scales too. So I think you just got to pick whatever that fits your budget. I don't assume students have huge budget, so maybe $1,000 USD or maybe a little more is what you can expect out of a student purpose laptops, especially for AEC environment, just because it is quite demanding in terms of hardware. Things might have changed since I've graduated, but that seems to be true in regards to what sort of hardware you need. But I've seen some students, hey, what's the best laptop for students? And then they're yet picking out $3,000 laptop. It makes me a little bit puzzled, but that was one of the comments that I've seen. So it's weird, but that's student side. In terms of more sort of average user, I think a lot of consumer grade graphics card in your machines, either desktop or laptop, will be more suitable, just because of the latest generation of graphics card is just really not available in stock. Just to mention the last generation, RTX 2060, 2070 area is probably the best sort of bang for buck type of area in terms of graphics card, just because it is just well optimized and you can probably get most amount of your tasks. And I have been favoring those cards in your laptops or desktop just because of its power efficiency, and it doesn't draw as much power, but yet it does have a good performance. So I think it's a happy balance. And that's what I usually recommend for people who's looking for sort of best bang for buck, middle of the road type of performance, with where they actually have about, I would say, 1,500 US dollar budget to spend for their professional usage, or maybe higher budget students, or you can just scale up. Unfortunately, architecture or AEC industry doesn't utilize as much of multi-core processing. So
Yeah.
CPU, unfortunately, again, unfortunately, CPU does not matter as much. In the olden days where we did a lot of rendering in CPU, it really did matter how many cores that you had. But in these days, it doesn't matter as much. So I won't go too far in that. Graphics card is where it's at. You want to focus on good middle of the road, the best bang for buck type of graphics card for your tasks. Again, if you're a professional, maybe starting out your career and you want to invest a bit more, or you're more and more realizing that you need more performance than what you already have, then you can go for 2080 or try to look for like the last gen 30 series of NVIDIA cards, so that you have sort of the better performance. And then lastly, I would go. I'm a little bit reluctant to say this because I want to stay politically correct in this regard. But for commercial, for higher practice, maybe one or two machines per practice for a lot of people, or maybe dedicated person per office can utilize commercial cards. I've been sort of advocate in like judging between consumer versus commercial graphics card in terms of AC workflow. But yeah, then you can use commercial cards such as Quadro cards, so that it has the best amount of bandwidth that is available for you. It is not necessarily faster, but it is able to chew through a lot more information than the consumer card. So, for those of you who are not aware, it is like having a bigger sort of storage, so that the head or processing is, it is not faster than the consumer card, but it has a lot bigger storage, so that you can dump a lot more data and wait for it to chew through. Whereas on a consumer card, it has much smaller storage. So when you dump a lot of stuff on it, this just chokes and dies. So if you're having to dump a lot of stuff because because you're just fastly going through a lot of things as a commercial practice, and you need this sort of high end, the most overkill type of setup for your great firm, yeah, you do have that niche of getting the best sort of performance. Obviously, there's going to be diminishing return as you pay for much higher cards, but yeah, that's true to any sort of industry or hardware or software. So
it's kind of, you need a thunderbolt, so you need external. But unlikely to medicine or finance, we're a bit unlucky on this side because they generally can use like slimmer laptops. In our case, my advice, obviously, Joseph is better on these things, but I would say a little bit go a bit thicker, slightly thicker, so a little bit more room for ventilation because it heats up, you know. I do have slim laptops as well. I'm not getting very good performance out of them because it heats up. I mean, if I can have a lot of cores, dedicated GPU, whatever, but if it heats up, performance drops down. So I would go a little bit like on the cooling side and the ventilation bit of that, laptops especially. And one another thing I would like to cover is that CPU, I agree with you that it doesn't matter as much as the GPU because there's a huge difference what kind of GPU you are getting. But when we have a multi-core, like a rendering thing, the CPU matters. However, if you're going like AutoCAD, Revit, or other software that uses single core, we need to focus on how much one core is performing. One single core, how much it's performing, and does this performance make a huge difference for you? I don't know if there are anything in your channel maybe I didn't came across. Did you compare for Revit or other Autodesk products or maybe other industry products, how it compares single core with different CPUs, or you didn't went to that level yet?
no, I don't have means to test things more accurately, or I guess I don't have as much expertise. But having to try many machines throughout the years, you know, all the laptops that come by, I do spend quite a lot of time just pushing the machines to its sort of limits. Maybe there's like few seconds or a few milliseconds of response time in regards to single core versus, you know, more core or more higher clock speed or overclock for that regards. But again, you know, a lot of laptops just evidently always will throttle thermally, and it will always have limitation in terms of battery. And that's why I always prefer desktop for that regard. I don't have to worry about neither of them. That's why I'm more inclined to go to desktop side. But to go back to the topic of core count, no, I have not compared it directly, but just looking at it from user point of view, you can go to your task manager and actually change your CPU graph into each core view, and then you'll see when you're SketchUp or Revit or any sort of Autodesk software and any AEC industry software is working, and it is just literally hanging. Like, it's not responsive because it's doing its thing, but you'll see one of the core just spikes up and everything else is still steady. So that is just a good evidence in like, okay, there's no way like you're gonna get more performance out of this. How many more cores that you have? You can have 64 threads, but you're utilizing only one of them, and then a couple of other cores are being used for video conference and the web page. In the olden days, when you're doing like CPU bound rendering, then all of those cores will like peaking up to 100 degree and it'll heat up crazy, but you know it's in front of your eyes that everything is being utilized. It's juicing everything out of your laptop, and you can see that. But unfortunately, I can't speak for it as much as I'm not a developer or programmer in any regards, but I understand a little bit of things. But there's a lot of under the hood or back end that needs to happen in order to take on more cores than a single. All out of these softwares that we are currently using nowadays is everything based on a single core sort of performance, and it's just not like flicking a switch. You need to do everything from ground up in order to utilize more cores. Therefore, it's been typically very, very difficult for you to get or make a software that is utilizing more cores.
Absolutely. Take a second and subscribe to our channel because there are many more BIM talks coming up, and we would like to make it available for all of you. So if you subscribe, you will be the first one who will be notified to them. Before we go, do's and don'ts by Joseph Kim, I would like to make a couple of more comments on this because he said in the beginning that he's using 2-in-1 XPS, and I would like to make a comment on this because I have a bit of frustration on that. I have also XPS 15. I have i9, and I mean, it's because it's very slim. It heats a lot. Despite I saw reviews that they were like saying, "Oh, it's adequate heating." It's actually heating a lot, and I cannot really get the performance out of it, and it's now really slow, and I'm not even opening it. I mean, I haven't been using it for the last couple of months. It throttles a lot, it heats up a lot, so as Joseph explained, 2-in-1, maybe it works for him. Does it heat up for you? Because it's really heating up a lot for me, and I'm not able to get any performance. If I open Revit or another software, it just takes ages to make something.
Yeah, you did it to yourself by putting i9 on it too. I don't know which generation it is, but depending on the generation, it'll
Ninth
yeah.
generation.
So the later generation, it will sort of heat up less and it becomes more efficient. But ninth generation, I think, is where i9 series was released. Therefore, they did a lot to just fit that into a 15-inch laptop there. And XPS tend to be flagship, the thin and light type of device, more so than do everything kind of performance machine. Therefore, it thermally throttles.
I shot myself there.
Yeah, well, I have purchased many laptops, and I actually owned one XPS 13. Continued theme here, but I stuffed everything. I customized, and I think I spent way more than I should have. But it ended up thermally throttling in order to run the laptop at any given moment. It always had to sit on top of a cooling mat. Yeah, it's just evident, and that's the thing, allowing customers to have options but not understanding what sort of things that they are doing to their machine. Yeah, you can spend and put all of those functions into your laptop that can potentially chew through, but it has two sort of byproduct of eating through your battery and then thermally throttling, and that's just what it is. And that's why some of the laptops don't even allow you to go like the highest spec. I think Apple is kind of in that regard. They always just kind of limit themselves in a way, but they also have thermal throttling issue on their own. So I won't go on that. I was just so fed up with a laptop just not functioning as it should, just because of the power limitation and the thermals. So that's why I just keep it at as like
I
in
understand you.
between this. I'm answering emails, I'm taking light notes, and perhaps using it as an additional screen and just carry it with me all the time. And then I'm able to write on it. That's why I prefer 2-in-1s, just so that I can keep notes about these webinars and scripts or outlines that I'm gonna make a video about. And it is really versatile in that regard, and I can like make notes on my PDFs. We share a lot of documents as an architectural manager or AEC environment professionals. So being able to write and comment and send those screenshots back is very, very important. Having that sort of touch input. I don't own a single tablet. I only own a laptop that is capable of doing being tablet. That's been the right fit for me. I don't run heavy Revit model or heavy SketchUp rendering tasks on my laptop. My desktop handles that, or my office computer handles that.
And there's a
It
wise
it,
decision.
it keeps me out of trouble. I don't want to deal with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I definitely agree with you, and it is like it was nightmare for me. I mean, obviously, spending a lot is one thing, and not being able to use it another thing. So it's like I made this mistake. So there's a kind of daunt from me, and let's hear a couple of do's and don'ts from Joseph.
What I wrote down in terms of don'ts was, don't get bogged down for all the tasks that you're needing to do. This is more of like the advice for a student or people who's trying to half out their career. For me, at the least, I've been always just trying to learn more and then do more and do better job and actually share with other people. And I feel like that's sort of more do, and don'ts is like, do not stop, keep encouraging yourself, leap forward and then learn more is sort of what I always want to give objective of to other people. Don't be afraid is I think what I want to say. Even you can make mistakes in buying wrong laptop. I have done it. Yeah, but you learn it the
I
yeah,
have
and
done
you
it.
you learn it the yeah,
Learn from them
you
though.
learn
Learn
it.
from them. Don't repeat the
Yep,
same
yep, and
mistake.
you learn from it, and don't settle on it. Don't get bogged down by certain mistakes that you have made. Move on, and then learn from those of your mistakes, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Even as someone who's doing YouTubes and videos and creating content, there are some contents I look back at and just like, what were you doing? What are you saying? What have you made? And you're just publicly humiliating yourself. But it's out there, and that's where I started from. I learned from it. Now I don't do that. All in all, that's where I grew from, and that's why I can appreciate how much I have grown. So yeah, that's sort of my personal advice in that regard.
And I will give you a couple of bonus and I will give you a couple of advice from me. Joseph was right. I mean, I can look at the first video we did 9 months ago. We started our channel 9 months ago. It wasn't as good as now. Obviously, the most important over here is that we're trying to lift the quality with every single video. Do it better. How can we do it better? How can we learn better to bring more value to the audience? That's why if you subscribe, you get more value in the future. And to do the same thing, his link and his channel will be in the description below. So just go ahead and subscribe to his channel as well. One thing I would really say and advise to you is don't buy something by having a projection of 3 years or 2 years. Don't build a laptop or buy a laptop. In 3 years' time, I might use a rendering, so let me buy the laptop. No. Think about today. Think about the near future. What are you going to use in the near future, in the next 6 months, in the next 3 months, in the next year, and buy the laptop or the whatever hardware, whatever software based on that need. Because if you buy it for 3 years later, the industry changes, new things come out. I mean, like new software kicks in, there are new requirements coming up. Maybe your career path will change, so there will be lots of changes will occur that you will be amazed and you will be like, oh, I spent this amount for nothing. So therefore, the best advice I can give you, invest for something, invest in yourself, best advice you can take. But when you invest in some kind of a product, invest for the near future. Don't invest for a long-term future because things will change. Trust me on that. It was great talk and it was great to host Joseph Kim. Thank you very much, Joseph. It was invaluable to me. Hope it was really valuable to our audience as well.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast just to talk about myself. I don't get to do enough of that on my own channel. I always talk about something else besides me, so it's been great.
Why don't you check our talk with Jonathan Ingram? He's an author as well as award winner. We have a great discussion about the BIM and RIM. If you're wondering what RIM is, it's a great time to discover what it is by clicking on this video. We also have an amazing playlist for you. We're trying to give you maximum value by inviting credible guests. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you get instant notification as soon as we schedule something and we publish something.